Guys, we are back with the Screen Team. My name is Chris, being joined by Tanika. And during the break, Tanika has tested my patience a lot. I'm not really sure how this last review is going to go. She's been checking the radio station here, checking our console, and she's been checking the microphone. She's like, this is dusty. And I'm like, Tanika, you're about gone, Tanika.
I am.
But we appreciate you being here for this last one. This is Cool Hand Luke. If you're a fan of Paul Newman, this is like an essential Paul Newman flick, isn't that right?
Yes.
Paul Newman, he's in jail, right? His character in this, right?
At the beginning,
he's a bad dude, right?
Not really.
Oh, but he's in jail. He's in jail, Tanika.
Well, he cuts off the parking meters. He cuts off the heads of the parking meters. And so I know he's been to war. He's done all these things. Had a Bronze Star, all this, and then he cuts off the parking meters, and he's drunk. So they said, "Oh, he's not going to go to jail. He's going to go to a chain gang." Okay, so he goes on this chain gang in Florida. This is based on a book.
Okay.
That the actual author, he did several criminal things and was on a chain gang in Florida. So he kind of wrote this about that.
Okay.
So Paul Newman is playing this part. And
he's playing Luke.
Yeah, he's playing Luke. And he gets to the chain gang.
Okay.
And he has to deal with all of the personalities. Because you have the person that's in the prisoner who is actually the boss. Mm-hmm. And then you actually have the boss who is, over all of the wardens and everything that's there. And they go out and they dig ditches and clean up the weed and all this stuff on the roads. They pave the road. So they're really the road crew that's doing all this work. And so Paul Newman has to win everybody over. And by doing that, he plays poker, which comes up with how he comes up with a cool hand.
Right.
Because I don't want to give away the movie because because this is so brilliant how it's done. But later, after he gets that nickname, he wins them over by eating 50 eggs. That is the best scene, I swear. The 50 eggs. He really ate 8 of the boiled eggs in real life, but it was 50 eggs. But the acting of it, and it's just the humor. You're laughing until you're crying because he's really the anti-hero,
sure.
and him being there, the whole dynamics of everything and the whole of it, to me, it reminded me of MASH, and there's a reason why it reminded me of the MASH movie when it first came out, because they did it was a serious situation, but they did a lot of humor in it, and they kind of humanized, in a sense of a bad situation. So this was a movie that my mom, it was too hard for her to watch because of the brutality and because Ralph Waite, he was in it, and the brutality, like what happened to him and several people, that my mom, there was no way she was going to finish it. She says, I can't handle this type of movie.
Yeah. And
normally I can't do war movies, but I could do this movie because of the psychological aspect of this movie, of how the dominance and everybody is in human nature. I'm trying to think, the reason why this movie, I think, came out and become so brilliant is they had a national, let me look at my notes real quick and figure this. It is, it's the PCA, the Production Code Administration.
Okay.
They had this all the way through. It came out in the 1920s because there was a lot of these B movies that came out that had sexual scenes and they had things like this, and they did not want these in theaters. Okay. So there was the Production Code Administration, and a year before this this movie came out, that started to fall. So people were protesting it, and that started to fall. And actually, this was one of the first movies that came out. And right after this movie came out, then you had MASH, the movie MASH. So you see how the movies were made before were so glamorous and so you were so much in your bubble and everything. And then you've got these so humanistic movies that came out that were so different.
So what you're saying is this movie kind of was a little bit of a turning point in Hollywood a little bit.
It was.
Because if you watch the movies from the 1970s, a lot of them were very, very dark films.
Right.
So like this one in MASH and...
Yeah, there's so many stories that wanted to be told that were being held back until all of these started coming out.
Yeah. This movie also has a famous quote in it as well.
Yes.
It's something that you and I do frequently, right? Yeah. And that is what?
We have a failure to communicate.
Very, very much so. This movie, do you still like watching this movie?
Every time it comes out, I finally end up buying it. But yeah, I've probably seen it 15 times. Right. I'm sure. I'm positive I've seen it 15 times.
So wait a minute, you own this movie?
I own this movie.
You couldn't have let
I've read the book.
You couldn't have let me borrow this movie?
You never asked for this movie.
I thought maybe you might, why do I have to ask? Why can't you just offer?
Okay, from now on, I will offer. I will offer from now on.
It's a failure to communicate for sure between Tanaka and Chris here on the Screen Team. Tanaka, I've missed you so much, man.
Yes. I believe it.
I love your response, yes.
Sorry.
Tanaka, thank you for being on the show, man. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you. We'll be back at you next Saturday, I promise. So we'll see. We'll see after this episode if we'll be back. It's the Screen Team, and remember, we want you to know before you go.